Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing?
All right.
As African people, we believe strongly in call and response, so I'm going to try that again. How's everybody doing? All right. There we go. Welcome to the African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta, also known as ADAMA, and to the closing reception of the Galbreath Collection, the first 10 years, a decade of collecting. Y'all make some noise for them. My name is Dr. Fahamu Pecou. I am the founder of ADAMA, and really thrilled to be here with all of you today to celebrate this amazing collection, but to also celebrate this amazing institution, which is 5 years old as of this year, so make some noise for that.
Wow.
We're really excited to be the premier, and when I say premier, I also mean first, voice of African diaspora contemporary art and culture here in the city of Atlanta. This is, in our opinion, an institution that is long overdue here in the city, and we're excited to be here, excited to bring our programming and our ideas to Atlanta, and to also lay the foundation for an institution that celebrates us first and foremost. So we're thrilled that you're here. Your support means everything to us, and so we encourage you all to please make sure to sign up on our mailing list and follow all of our programming and things that we have coming up. We'll make a couple of announcements about upcoming events towards the end of our conversation today, but I don't want to spend too much time paying the bills. We're here to celebrate Georgia and Sohei and this amazing collection. What you see around you represents over 10 years of collecting between this amazing couple in their support for Atlanta artists. Everyone that you see, all the work that you see in this room, 90% is artists that live and work in Atlanta, and the other 10% have significant ties to Atlanta. So there's a really powerful story being told through this collection, and I'm honored that we were able to present this to you guys. So I want to start the conversation really generally. We've had this conversation a few times, but one of the things that's most interesting, and I think many people will be maybe surprised to learn, is that all of these pieces actually live in your house and live with you every single day. And I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about what it means to live amongst such beautiful works and to be in conversation every day with these artists. What does that mean to you?
Well, to be honest, I don't think we knew quite how much it meant to us until we took it all out of our house. And so they walked out the next morning, and there were almost tears in our eyes, because you're used to that energy, you're used to engaging with the works. Like, it feels like we live with the artists. Like, it feels like we are amongst them, and right now our house feels like a capsule. It's empty. But we put up my artwork, so we tried to balance that out. But yeah, the experience of the work, Sohei often talks about the value of our work being your experience with it. Like, not saying that I don't want one of these artists to pop off real good, but I'm starting to understand what she means by that.
And when George and I first started dating, he didn't have any artwork up in his house of his, and I thought that was so strange. I was like, are you really an artist? Like, are you a rhythm artist? Or like a play pretend artist? And then when I finally started to see some of his work, I said, oh, you're a real artist. Why don't you live with your work? Why isn't it all around you? Like, there was just this beauty that was a part of his talent that wasn't being showcased. And so when we got married, that was one of the first things. Like, he had painted a piece, and I said, that's ours to keep. He's like, what do you mean? Like, I make art and we sell art. I was like, no, like, this is ours. You don't have to sell everything that you create or make. And that was really important to me, to be able to live with that energy, to be able to live with that talent, and not just his, but other artists that we came into contact with.
Thank you for that. And that's one of the things that I've always found, really compelling about the ways, not just that you collect, right, but the way that you collect. And in some of our conversations, one of the things that you both spoke really highly about was the fact that every artist in your collection you have a relationship with, right? And the importance of that relationship. So I'd like maybe to ask you to speak a little bit about that. Why is that important artists that you collect?
I think artists are like my rock stars. Like I grew up with a really creative, eclectic mom who poured the importance of artistry into us without ever knowing it, but being able to live with those rock stars. The energy that you bring into your house is really important. So having a relationship with those artists and understanding who they are as people and having that connection. So not just bringing anybody into your house, but people that you appreciate their spirit and their being, what they do, why they do it, is really important to me.
And I didn't realize the value of it until we met Ely Mays. So he's a character, but we were at Hammond's house, and the Thompsons had flown him in to speak about his work and sell a few of his pieces. And we couldn't afford the pieces that he had there at the time, but so it was like, yeah, so you live in Paris, and we're gonna be there in like 2 weeks. And so he has these conversations all the time, and I'm like, we're not gonna follow up with this man in a whole other country, right? But we reached out to him and spent like 2 days walking through Paris, and he just poured so much knowledge and history into us during that time. And then we bought like 3 pieces and figured out how to get them in our luggage and get them back safely. And I think the work is not just this tangible piece on the wall. It's a whole memory, a whole experience with a person. And like we got stories like that for days. And I think a lot of folks that collecting here, that you can say you have a story for every artist that you engage with.
I think that's super amazing. And I've always wrestled with this because it comes up very often when I do talks, particularly with students, emerging artists, people in school, and they want to know how much does your work sell for? How much is it, And I think the commodity of art for our community is oftentimes the biggest barrier, right? We feel like, yeah, I like that, but I don't think I can afford that. Or, when I get some money one day, I'm going to start buying art, right? But I think your collection, in addition to demonstrating the importance of nurturing these relationships, also demonstrates how accessible collecting art can be, right? Like when you build relationships with community, when you build community. But I'm privy to the fact that a number of the artists that you collect, you started collecting them at the very genesis of their career, right? Like this might have been a piece that was in their first exhibition. This might have been, something that small that they had in their studio, right? But you've amassed this collection by working small, not thinking about it like, oh, this artist is about to blow up. Let me, invest in this. Can you talk a little bit about like your the methodology that you use in collecting?
Well, I know one thing that was amazing. So we walked in the city of ink. Some of you might be familiar with the location in Castleberry Hills, tattoo parlor, and also a gallery space ran and owned by Maya Bailey. And it felt like the music stopped when we walked in because, we didn't have the look, we didn't have no tattoos at the time, and we weren't a part of that culture. But shortly thereafter, literally, it felt like next time we came in, oh, George, oh, so hey. And the art community is the most welcoming community in Atlanta to me. Like, we are a vulnerable population, right? But we are also a loving population. We love on each other, right? And one of the things I find really exciting about it is, I tell people all the time, if you get to Atlanta, just go ahead and buy you a piece of artwork. Because that artist will invite you to every event that they have and know about. Every Friday will be booked for the rest of the year, and I think that's pretty dope.
I think we buy what we love, and we also want to support emerging talent. And one piece of artwork begets another creation of a piece of artwork. And so we're making space, and we're pouring into this economy, this ecosystem. And so those purchases are very intentional in following new and emerging artists and being in those spaces. So that has been, it's a part of what feels like our calling and our ministry. I think George being an artist and an art educator for high school students, you start to see that talent really early. And then when you're in these emerging art spaces and you're at the first show, like, you know what you like. I don't need somebody to tell me what I like. Like, I know what I like. I know what I feel good about. I know when I feel like an artist is working and this is something they're trying to do, and to be able to support that and support that artist, because those purchases and sales mean so much to them. So it's a way of giving back, but we get just as much as we give, if not more. So that's part of why we do what we do.
I think it's important to note here too, you mentioned that George is an artist, but he's also an art educator. But so, hey, your work as well, your professional work as well, is of great benefit to artists working artists, I should say, providing professional services like taxes and things like that for artists. And I think, this is also an important thing to think about as we have this conversation around collecting. When we're talking about collecting, particularly in your collection, we're also talking about building community and supporting community, right? And so there are multiple ways of doing that. Buying the work is one way, but also pouring back into the community through your professional services is another way of building that community. But we have a few other panelists I want to bring up, but before I do, I did just want to ask you guys again, this is marking a decade of your collecting journey together. What does the next decade look like?
More art, more travel, more good times, more friendships, more connections. I think more of the same. It has been, I didn't think that, so one day I was taking a nap because I had a show that was opening that evening, and my dad called George, like, is she okay? So, yeah, she's taking a nap, she has a show. And my dad said, I never thought that she would be in this space doing this thing. And it made me feel really good, like growing up with a math background, my former professional background, finance and engineering, and now that I'm able to do that for kind of my rock stars. My mom was a serial entrepreneur and creative, and I try to be the person that I wish she had. And to continue to be that person in this space gives me joy that I wouldn't have known otherwise. And so I'm grateful for George being my partner and husband and bringing me along in this art space. Because I was able to realize a sense of fulfillment that I didn't know that I have.
I will leave it on that note, but what I do want to say, I am most excited to see what happens with my students, right? They keep popping up like, so Elijah Hutchins, amazing artist, right? He was in our youth artist program, and now he's grown up and going off and doing his own thing. We bought 3 pieces from former artists or former students of mine, and I mean, their work is amazing. Lamar Bailey, thank you. Nanyo Rideau, thank you. I'm terrible with names. And Christian Alexander. Yeah, so I want to see what happens with them next, because it'll be pretty amazing to look up and realize that you taught like the next Fahamu Pecou or something. You know what I mean? I'm like, I did that.
That's what's up. All right, so we're going to bring up a couple more folks to our panel here. We want to welcome Damien and Kim Fisher, as well as Zach and Robin Watts.